You found it?
Yeah, it wasn't on before. So I'm gonna mute myself.
So Dr. DT, do you want to go ahead and welcome?
Sure, thank you, Pushpa. Good evening, everyone. My name is DT Huynh. I am the Interim Department Head of Computer Science at UT Dallas. Welcome to the second lecture in the fall 2020 Grace Lecture Series. This wonderful Women Empowerment Lecture Series, inaugurated back in spring 2015, has included several speakers on UTD campus, especially from the CS department. And today we have a wonderful speaker who is a senior university administrator who will talk about her exciting journey from faculty to department chair, dean, and now provost at the university. Pushpa, please go ahead and introduce the speaker.
Sure. So before I introduce, I would once again like to acknowledge Dr. DT for his support for continuing this GRACE series, and to Michelle for writing all the great CS stories and the beautiful women who have come here and spoken in this series, and all the other speakers as well. And also an acknowledgement to Norma, because it was Norma's suggestion to include Dr. Betty for this series as a speaker. And she's a current UNT Dallas student, and she was very kind to refer Dr. Betty Stewart for the series. So I'm going to introduce Dr. Betty Stewart and read a bio. So Dr. Betty Stewart serves as the Provost, the Executive Vice President for Academic Affairs, and it is a tenured professor of chemistry at the UNT Dallas campus. She earned a PhD with a specialization in protein biochemistry from Carnegie Mellon University in Pennsylvania. She has over 27 years in higher education. Prior to coming to UNT Dallas, she served as the Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs at Midwestern State University at Wichita Falls, Texas. Her notable accomplishments during her academic career include the development of biochemistry major at Austin College, Texas, helping to revitalize the science programs, increasing undergraduate research, leading the School of Mechanical Engineering through its first ABIT accreditation, while serving as the Dean of the College of Science and Math at Midwestern State University. She regularly mentors STEM faculty interested in assuming university leadership roles from across the country to the national organization, the Association of American Colleges and University, Project Kaleidoscopes, and the Summer Leadership Institute. She also mentors females interested in higher education administration through the HERS program. So without much delay, I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Betty Stewart, and it's a big honor for us that she's agreed to talk in this series at UTD. So Dr. Betty, you want to take it on?
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to thank Chairman Dr. DT and Dr. Kumar for inviting me here tonight. And I just wanted to share my personal story. And so I titled my talk, Making the Paradigm Shift, My Journey from Faculty to Administrator.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I can't see your screen.
All right, let me try it again.
Pushpa, maybe you need to stop your screen. Yes, now I can see. Great.
All right. So again, the title of my talk is Making the Paradigm Shift, My Journey from Faculty to Administrator. I just wanted to give you a summary of my life experiences on the educational side As an undergraduate, I received a 4-year academic scholarship. And after completing my an 8-week summer research program in my junior year, my advisor encouraged me to apply to graduate school. As a result of that, I received a full graduate assistantship to complete my doctoral studies. And in all of these training experiences, I had great mentoring and a strong support system. So my PhD is from Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and my bachelor's degree is from Mississippi State in Starkville, Mississippi. I wanted to put this slide up because I wanted to show you some of the additional trainings that I participated in after earning my doctorate, in case anyone is interested in moving into leadership positions and some of the opportunities that are available for you. I'm going to start from the bottom and move up. Project Kaleidoscope. This is an informal organization that's interested in science education reform. These are not science educators, but these are scientists who want to change the way we educate students in the STEM field. And then I participated in the Bryn Mawr College program, which is at HERS, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, as well as the Harvard program, the Management Development Program at Harvard, and then the ASCU MLI program as well. I'll weave these into my talk, but I just wanted to let you know that I will be talking about these as well as part of my experience. I did my postdoctoral work at the UT Houston, and then I worked for 3 years at a private research foundation before I made the switch to go to the university. So I worked for 1 year as an instructor in chemistry and biology before taking my first tenure track position. So I began as an assistant professor of chemistry at Austin College, and there my focus was on teaching scholarship and service. And for those of you who are watching or listening to this talk, I have numbers in red, and I'm going to leave that for you to guess what those numbers mean. And so at the end of the talk, if you figured those out, that would be great. If not, I'll share with you what those numbers mean. But look for those red numbers throughout the talk as well. So once I received my tenure track position, I started focusing on, just working into being a part of the academy, doing my teaching, my scholarship, my service. And after 1 year at Austin College, my expectation was then to develop an interdisciplinary biochemistry program and recruit students to join this major. And so as a part of that, I received a lot of great support and mentoring from my colleagues at Project Kaleidoscope. And I wanted to acknowledge someone who was very important in my growth and development. This is Jeannie Narum, who's the founding director of Project Kaleidoscope. And she had a great part in my life in terms of helping me to develop as a faculty member and as a STEM scholar. So I received tenure and was promoted to associate professor. And then I took an 8-month sabbatical at the University of Michigan. I wanted to learn some new research techniques that I could use in my research. So I used this opportunity to learn those techniques. And then after my sabbatical was over, I felt reinvigorated. You worked really hard to earn tenure, and you get worn down in the process. So my sabbatical allowed me an opportunity to be reinvigorated and renewed and ready to come back and teach and do my research with my students. So as soon as I came back to campus in the fall, the senior faculty and dean asked for a meeting, and they wanted to discuss something with me. And so I already began to question, okay, what's going on? What do I need to talk about? And they said, no, I just want to talk about leadership. And one of the things that they talked about was that the chair of the department position was open, and at Austin College, this is a rotating position. So you would serve in this position for 4 to 6 years, and then you would step away if you'd like, or you could stay longer, and then the next person could step up and do the job. Well, I when I heard about this opportunity, I was reluctant to take it because I was ready to get back in and do my research and work with my students and teach. And so they said, and I kept saying, well, is there anybody else who could do this job besides me? And they said, no, we think you're the right person for the job. So I said, okay, but I don't want to stay in too long. And, can I get out after 4 years? And they said, well, we would like you to stay for 6. And that way the junior faculty are ready to move up into that position. So I agreed to that terminology. And I will say that becoming chair of the department was an eye-opening experience for me. I was so focused on tenure, working with my students, doing my research, that I was unaware of the relationships happening around me. And also I learned about university budgeting for the first time and how money is spent. And so if you're involved in this, it's important that you learn about the budget, because the budget tells you what the priorities are at your institution. So having an opportunity to work with the budget helped me to understand more of the values of the department and what we could do. So as I was serving, I had a very positive experience serving as chair. Sometimes I had to make difficult decisions, but I had great support to help me in this role. And then the president had heard about some of the things I was doing in the department, so he nominated me for a summer leadership institute. And this was the HERS program for women in higher education administration. And HERS is taught at different locations. It's taught at Wellesley College in Massachusetts, at Bryn Mawr College in Pennsylvania, and at the University of Denver in Colorado. So the program I went to was at Bryn Mawr College. And I can say that this was one of the best leadership experiences of my career. In my program, there were 72 women from across the US and from South Africa. And this was a 4-week summer residency program where we would have class during the day, and then we would have fireside chats in the evening. And I want to talk about those fireside chats a little bit, because I think that helped me more than anything. The fireside chats would be females who were in academic administration and leadership roles, and they would come in and talk to us about their experiences as women and what it would be like, or what their experience it had been like. And then they gave us the opportunity to ask any questions that we might have about what it means to be a female in a leadership role. So this was so exciting, because you don't have that kind of homogeneous audience where you can sit and ask those kinds of questions. I thought this was one of the best things that had ever happened to me, because I learned so much during these 4 weeks at Bryn Mawr. Also part of the program was career coaching. And I learned about setting goals for myself in my career and how to build my resume. And if I wanted to move into progressively higher leadership roles, it was important that I looked at those areas in my resume where I didn't have experience and try to find some kind of experience at my home institution to fill in those gaps in my resume. And I learned a lot about networking here, because I had 71 other ladies who were also participating in this program, and we could share lots of ideas. And this was a great opportunity just to meet new people. And so I'd also like to acknowledge a picture that you see on my screen. This is Judith White, and Judith is the president of HERS, and she was a very instrumental in helping me also develop and also make this shift in my career. So after I finished this 4-week residency program on women in higher education administration, I had to make a decision about what was next for me in my career. And I decided that I wanted to pursue a more advanced role in academic leadership. So after the program, I went back to campus and then I was still excited about teaching and working with my students, but I also started looking at career advancement opportunities. And one of the things that I learned as a part of this program was when there's an opening for a position, look at the requirements of that position. And then based on your resume, can you say that you have experience in all those requirements? If not, try to find an opportunity to fill those gaps. So I applied for 3 dean's positions over that next year after the summer residency program. And I received interviews for all 3 of those positions. And actually, I received offers from all 3 of those positions. And I accepted the Dean of the College of Science and Mathematics position at Midwestern because it was less disruptive for my life. And so if you will notice, there's another red number there. And I hope you're curious about what those numbers mean. When I became dean, so I left my home campus and I went to Wichita Falls, I learned the importance of having supportive leadership. The job in itself has its own challenges, but it's good to have your provost who's very supportive. And so I'd like to acknowledge my provost at the time when I became dean, Dr. Frederica Wiedemann. And she was very supportive, and she served as a great mentor and role model for me. And she helped make my transition from department chair to dean much easier. And so I wanted to recognize her. She also helped continue to develop me as a leader, and she supported some professional development opportunities for me as well. She nominated me for the Harvard's Management Development Program and also for the Askew Millennium Leadership Institute, just helping me develop as a leader, helping me network with other people and learn what it means to be a leader and a woman in higher education administration. So following my work as dean at Midwestern, I accepted the vice presidency at Eckerd College as the next step in my career progression. There's another red number for you. So, and I stayed at Eckerd for a couple years, but then I was recruited back to Midwestern to serve as their provost and vice president for academic affairs. I normally am of the mindset that once you leave an institution, you don't normally come back. So I had a great experience at Midwestern, and actually I was very pleased that I would be recruited back to serve as provost and vice president for academic affairs. And for those of you who are not familiar with what provost means first among equals, and it's a vice presidential position, but this person is first among the vice presidents, and this person stands in for the president in his or her absence on the campus. So after being at Midwestern as provost for 4.5 years, I was recruited to Dallas to serve as provost and executive vice president for academic affairs at UNT Dallas. This was an exciting opportunity for me because this is a new university that's part of the UNT system. It's the youngest. And, very few times in your life do you have an opportunity to shape the future of a campus. So I jumped on that opportunity because I resonated with the mission and vision of the university, but I also was excited about the opportunity to help shape the future of the campus. And in shaping the future of the campus, you get to hire key faculty and staff positions, and you also want to hire for mission, because you want the people that you recruit to stay and support the university. And so you make sure that you emphasize the importance of the mission and vision of the university when you're working in this role. I also have had the opportunity to hire 3 of the 6 academic deans And so it's been a great experience for me helping to build this campus. And so I just wanted to talk to you about some lessons learned on my way. If you are going to be an academic leader, you want to be an authentic leader. People can tell when you're not authentic. And then you know, most people think of leadership as just being the person in front. You can also have positional and non-positional leadership. If I have faculty on this call, you can be the leader. You're the leader of your classroom. You don't have to be the president or the provost or the dean. You lead every day, but whatever you do, be authentic in your leadership. Act ethically and with integrity. I can't stress this enough. You're going to be making a lot of decisions that are going to impact a lot of people. Make sure that you make good decisions and make sure that whatever decisions you make, you act with integrity in that decision making. Be a good listener. Listen to what is said and what is not said. This is one of the most important lessons that I've learned in being a leader is listen. And so if I were to write this as an equation, I would say speak is less than listen. Listen because you're going to learn so much about how to be successful in your job, but you're also going to hear when there are issues there. And so listen, don't go in with preconceived notions about what you expect, but actually truly listen to what your constituents are telling you. Be thoughtful, think things through. Sometimes it's very easy to get caught up in the heat of the moment. And, you know, sometimes you just act out of emotions, but step back a minute and be thoughtful and understand the role of humility in your leadership. Be resourceful. You won't have all the answers all the time. And please don't expect to know all the answers all the time. But, you know, rely on others who have more experience or who've been in situations that you've not been in before. This will help you be a better leader. Be prepared to take on the leadership role. If you're a faculty member now and you want to move into administration, my recommendation to you is complete your trajectory to full professor if you want to become an academic dean. Now, you can become an academic dean as an associate professor, but one of the major roles of an academic dean is that you're going to evaluate faculty for tenure and promotion. And so if you're going to evaluate a faculty member who's going from associate professor to professor, and you've never gone through that process before, you know, that faculty member will question your ability to lead in that way. So if I can offer that piece of advice, I would say that's one of the best lessons that I learned, that I moved to full professor before I applied for the academic dean's role. If you aspire to become a leader, wherever you are right now, try to take on more progressively complex leadership assignments, even in the faculty role, because no one will know that you're interested in being a leader if you don't step up and do something. You might have in your mind about what you'd like to do and where you'd like to go in your career, but if someone doesn't notice you, they can't help put you in the right position to help you to be the leader that you could be. These next 2 points are 2 points that I had to learn the hard way, and so I'd like to share those with you. Understand that former faculty colleagues will now be your direct reports, and the nature of your relationship will change even if you remain at the same institution. So my faculty colleagues, when I moved into a leadership role, now reported to me. And so that same group of friends that I had, and we would have lunch together or dinner together, or we would do social things together, our relationship changed when I moved into the leadership role, because I now had the authority to say yes or no to their request. And, you know, when I moved into that chair's role, I just saw myself still as a faculty member, but I noticed that my faculty colleagues would now have meetings without me. And that was a lonely experience for me, because I was like, no, we've been together 5, 6 years. You know, why aren't we together anymore? But then, you know, I had to learn through my mentoring that there has to be a paradigm shift in my thinking as well, because my faculty colleagues don't see me anymore as a faculty colleague. They now see me as their supervisor. And then this last point that I have here on this slide is that sometimes your senior colleagues will look at you as though you're still that junior faculty just starting out your career. And they will remember everything you did on the way to becoming a leader. And sometimes they'll remind you of that. I remember when you did this, and you know, we had to do this and that. And so just remember that those senior colleagues might not automatically just be drawn to you as the leader, because they're going to still see you as that little junior faculty who's still kind of wet behind the ears and probably making some mistakes along the way. And then this is a hard one, but one that you might want to consider sometimes. Sometimes you may need to move to a different campus in order to lead. You may not be able to hold that leadership role coming up through the faculty. Sometimes it may be good to move to a different campus to bring a different perspective. And so make sure that you take that into consideration as well. Understand the culture of your campus. Don't go in and just try to automatically change everything until you understand how the campus works. I think the faculty will respect you more if you try to understand them. And you're going to go in usually with some ideas that you might have, but if those ideas don't mesh with the culture of the campus, sometimes you're not going to be successful in that role. Make sure you're familiar with university policies and processes before making difficult decisions. I remember when I was dean and when I was provost, and sometimes I'd have a decision and it impacted a faculty member or staff member. They would ask for a meeting and they would say, I understand that you're making this decision, but could you tell me which policy you used when you were trying to make that decision? And so you want to make sure that you are you understand the policies of the campus. Please communicate simply and effectively. We know that you're intelligent, but when you're in these leadership roles, simpler is better, because your message won't get lost in translation. So communicate, 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 and communicate simply and effectively, and say the same thing wherever you are, so that there's no doubt what your message is. And this is one I want to tell you: don't hide behind email. Sometimes you'll get a message, or sometimes you'll get frustrated about something and you want to sit behind the desk and type this email, and and I'm showing you something. But as leaders, make sure that you do not hit the send button until you've had time to think about your response. Because once you send that response, you can't get it back. And you may have just been feeling that way at the moment, but when you've had time to think about it, you probably won't respond that same way again. So don't hit the send button. Sometimes if you feel like you need to type it and then delete it. Just don't hit send. Also, please remember that there are many leadership styles, and sometimes you will have to reframe in order for you to lead effectively. There's a book that I'd like to recommend. It's called Bowman and Deal. It's called Reframing Organizations. And it talks about different kinds of leadership frames and how you have to operate in different frames depending on who you're working with. And sometimes you have to operate between frames. And then sometimes you have to operate in all of the frames at the same time. So I recommend that book as a great leadership book to help you to understand that there are different leadership styles and that you might say, I'm this kind of person, but sometimes you have to also be flexible in the way that you in the way that you lead. And if you leave an organization, make sure you leave it in a better place than it was when you arrived. Never leave an organization worse off than when you arrived at that organization. That speaks to you as a leader as well. And these are some personal lessons that I've learned. Make sure that you are self-aware. Pay attention to what's happening around you. Pay attention to how people respond to you. Pay attention to how you respond to people. As scientists, one of the things that I do, and I'm sure some of you do as well, I find that I'm thinking a lot. I'm usually in my head thinking about something, trying to solve a problem. And I may be walking around thinking about that problem, but I may pass somebody and didn't say hi or didn't speak to that person because I was so focused on a problem. Well, the person that I didn't speak to will usually form an opinion about you that's not necessarily true, that you may be unfriendly or that you didn't see them as a person when you were really thinking about how to solve a problem. So be self-aware. Be self-aware, especially of any situation you may be in. Next point is one that I'm still working on myself in my personal life, and that's getting that work-life balance. I have this ideal of where I'd like to be in my work-life balance. I'm not there yet, so I'm not the expert here on telling you how to achieve a work-life balance, but try to work toward getting one that's manageable for you and your family and your life. It is so important that you have a support system around you when you're a leader. These may be people on your campus. These may be people away from your campus. These may be friends you've had for a long time who are in the academy. But make sure you build a support system around yourself, because sometimes you want to get that support from others, and sometimes you want to have someone you can bounce ideas off and just ask them, I have a question, and so could we talk about this? And so that support system is very important. And finally, don't forget self-care. Sometimes you can get so busy doing and working that you don't think about yourself and your health and what's going on in your own life. So make sure you take some time for self-care. And every year I recommend that you take some time off away from the job for a vacation. And if you don't want to go anywhere, just have a staycation. But take care of yourself, because there's only you, and you have to take care of yourself because no one else will take care of yourself. And then finally, I'd just like to thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Okay, I see a hand up.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for a wonderful topic, Stewart. It's very, very interesting, and I think that some of the lessons that you talk about are really, really good. Well, I have two questions. The first one is probably easy. You've been department chair, dean, and provost, right?
Yes.
So being dean and provost, you probably don't have a time as faculty anymore. So first question is, do you miss being a faculty member?
I do. I enjoyed working with my students. And when I was dean, I actually shared a research lab with one of the faculty members. I went upstairs and I said, you know, sometimes I have problems that I need to work on, but sometimes I can think better when I'm focused on my research project. So one of the faculty members actually loaned me a bench space in her lab so I could come up and do some small experiments. And I would tell my administrative assistant, I'm going to be in the lab for a couple hours. If you need me, call me up in the lab. And even when I was provost, I agreed to teach a class. Now, that's unusual in some ways, but I was teaching the honors students. So they were so self-motivated that I really was just facilitating the class. But I didn't want to lose contact with the faculty. And I enjoyed being a teacher, so it was fun for me. And then it was fun for them because they would say, oh, the provost is teaching us a section. So yeah, I did.
Yeah, my second question is, you know, I was also department head for 12 years, quite a long time back. And then when I resigned from my position, the provost came and he said something that, you know, DT, being department head is the most difficult job in the university because you have pressure from the faculty as well as from the dean. So what do you think about that now that you went through all these positions, right? Chair, dean, and provost.
Yeah.
What's your take on that?
You know what? I would agree. I would say chair and dean are both very difficult positions because you're middle managers. You have expectations from the faculty and, you know, coming up from the faculty, but you also have expectations coming down from the president and the provost. So you're really, you know, you really have to manage that well. And I agree with you. Those are very difficult positions because you want to be advocates for your faculty. But at the same time, you have a provost saying, this is where the university wants to go, and I need you to help me get there. And sometimes those two don't mesh. Sometimes the faculty are saying, stand up for us and say no. And then your provost is saying, but I need you to support the university. So absolutely, being in those middle management positions are very tough. I agree with you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, Pushpa.
Yeah, so Dr. Betty, I just wanted to thank you for your talk because I found that this talk was one of the most authentic talks I've heard from a senior administration official. And it just spoke to me as a person and as a woman of the kinds of challenges that you must have gone through at each level, from stepping from like faculty to a full tenure faculty to dean to provost, and where you are today. It just speaks of your hard work and your commitment to your service.
Thank you. You are absolutely right. You know, we can all tell a beautiful story about how easy things were, but that's why I put those lessons learned, because I wanted you to get an kind of get an understanding of what it really means. Now, if this is something that you really want to do, I don't want you to shy away from it. Because there are challenges involved, because the rewards are also very great. You know, the impact that you'll have on student success, the impact you'll have on faculty development, the impact you'll have on shaping the university curriculum. Those are all very rewarding aspects of the job. But, you know, sometimes you have to step back and think about those because you're so busy every day doing the day-to-day operations of the position. Yes.
Next, we're going to add in 30 mils.
Okay, I'm losing you.
I think it's Dr. Bastani.
Dr.
Oh, because-
Bastani?
No, I heard someone else talking. So,
Okay.
no, just a quick question. Once we get into the robotic age, will robots replace faculty, or robots will replace deans or provosts? Which is more likely?
I don't know. I don't know. Someone still has to make sure things are done well. And, you know, there's a human side to everything. And you guys are so good with the technology and with the engineering, but there's that human side. You know, I always thought I could write an equation to solve the problems. And the thing that I learned through this administrative process is the unknown factor there, that unknown variable is people and their emotions and their thoughts. And there's no equation that can take that into consideration.
So you mean robots can replace faculty, but not deans and provosts?
No, I don't think I don't think a robot can replace a faculty member as well.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Great talk. Great talk. Thank you.
So Dr. Betty, do you want to share what those numbers meant in your talk?
Oh, yeah.
Because I was trying to figure it out and I could not. I thought it was your age, but then I figured out, no, it's not your age.
I was going backwards. Did you notice it was getting smaller?
Yeah.
Let me see if I can get those back up for you so you can see.
Sure.
All right. So let's see, where did I start? Okay, this was my first number right here, is 32. So 32 is the number of years my predecessor served before I took over the role.
Oh, okay.
So now you can see what I meant by a young faculty member stepping in there and trying to fulfill some shoes, and you're now trying to replace someone who had served in that role for 32 years. All right, where's my next number?
It was 29.
29. 29 is the number of years of the faculty member who was serving as dean when I took the dean's position. Okay, and then my next number should be right here. 30 years was the person I replaced for the vice president's role. That person had been at the institution for 30 years. And then 2 was when I took over as provost at Midwestern. That person had been there 2 years before they left. And I put those numbers there, and I'm gonna see if I can't get out of here now, and I'll tell you. Okay, am I back on? All right. I put those numbers there because there's another layer of complexity that came with those leadership roles for me. And that is, you know, when you're replacing senior people who've been at an institution for a long time, it takes a lot of diplomacy sometimes to get people to follow you when they've been following someone who's been at the institution for so long. So if you've been at the institution for a long time and you get a new leader, make sure you remember what that new leader's experience is and try to support that leader because it takes a lot of work to win the trust of people who've had senior leaders who've been at the university, whether they were in that leadership role, they may have been in a faculty role, and then they moved to that role. It takes a lot of work to earn that trust in order for you to then become the leader and then to accomplish things along the way. That's why those numbers were there, to remind me of my journey as well.
All right, so are there any other questions for Dr. Betty here? Okay, Dr. Dasku?
Yes. You're on mute.
Sorry, my dog was barking earlier. So I'm Ovidio Daesco. I'm the associate department head. I just want to say that was an amazing talk. I really enjoyed. So clear and so nicely said and communicated. And I also like your latest point about taking over on these positions and how we should, as faculties have been maybe for a long time in one place, should regard those that take new positions coming in. I would want to ask you, when you took those higher and higher dean, how many years of experience do you have before jumping to the next level? Like, how many years as department head before going to dean? How many years as dean before going to provost?
Yeah. Okay, so I served as department chair for 6 years.
6 years,
before
okay.
I took the dean's role. When I was dean, I stayed in the dean's role for 4 years before I moved to the vice president's role. And I stayed there 2 years. And those 2 years were so important because I moved to a different institution, but I learned what it meant to now become a vice president in those 2 years. And then I moved to the provost role and I stayed there for 5 years. So I've been in the provost role now for 8 years total. Some people may move faster. Some people may move faster than I do, but you know, I think it takes some time, especially as I said, I was replacing long-term people. And so I wanted to make sure, and that's why I said in my lessons learned, leave the institution better than when you came. And it takes some time to do that. You're not going to be able to go in that first year. That was the first lesson I learned when I moved to a different institution for the first time. I had all these great ideas of things I wanted to accomplish with the engineers and the computer scientists and the mathematicians, the chemists, the physicists and the biologists and the geologists. I had so many ideas of the things that I wanted to accomplish, but I realized until they could trust me as a leader and that they could trust what I said, it didn't matter how many great ideas I had. They weren't going to follow me until they could trust me. So I had to win their trust as a leader. And then when I began to earn their trust as a leader, I was able to do things, but I couldn't do any of those great things I had in my mind. So whatever you do, if you move into these roles, learn the culture, learn the environment, help them to trust you, because no matter how great your ideas are, if they don't trust you, those ideas will just fall on deaf ears.
Clearly. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yes.
So I had a question, Dr. Betty, and that's with regards to the current situation in COVID-19. Can you please talk about the challenges that your institution is facing, that is UNT Dallas, in the current situation, and how you're foreseeing the future, like in the next year or so, and what should we become aware of in today's situation?
Okay, say the last part of that question again.
So what do you think, or what do you foresee from your viewpoints on the kind of changes that educational institutions will go through in the next year or year and a half due to pandemic situation?
Yeah, none of us would have expected this to happen 6 months ago. And my academic background helps me to understand a little bit about how viruses work. And so I approach this from the scientific perspective, but my colleagues are not scientists, so this was very interesting for us. But so our challenges was where my campus is located, the communities around my campus have been hit very hard by COVID, in the sense that a lot of people lost their jobs, a lot of people became ill, and a lot of students really struggle with some of the mental health issues around being, isolated that way. So for us, the challenge was coming into this fall semester in such a way that we would first put the health and safety of our students, our faculty, and our staff first, and then try to deliver a curriculum that would help our students, persist and progress toward completing their degrees. So at our campus, we chose to go primarily remote for the fall. We just felt that it was best for the health and safety of our students to teach in a virtual environment. We also have a law school associated with our campus, and our law school has a combination of in-person, remote, and some hybrid classes. But this is a different group of people. These are more mature. These are adults. And so they can handle a lot of the situations around them, we think, a lot better. And we also wanted to engage our first-year law students because we didn't want to lose them to other campuses. So we made the decision, since it's a small number, it's about 400 students, that we could make some offerings that are different for them than we could for our undergraduate students. One of our challenges is space, because if we're going to do social distancing, the size and the capacity of our classrooms have been cut down to a half or a third of what they normally could be if we weren't in this pandemic. So we were trying to figure out about space. Now, I know I'm talking to a computer scientist, so I'm going to be very careful about what I say right now. We have our approach to our undergraduates is very high touch. And so we miss our face-to-face interactions with our students. We also have an adult population of students who work better with the online kinds of learning. So this was not, besides the personal issues that they were dealing with, the classroom part was not as difficult for our adult learners, because they were used to the online and the hybrid kinds of classes. Our undergraduates are struggling a little bit with being in this virtual environment because they're used to seeing the faculty members' face, engaging with them, going to their offices for office hours. So this has been a challenge for us, and we've tried to remedy some of these issues by using Teams and Zoom, and so that the students can connect a face with their instructor, as well as our learning management system. For us is Canvas. I don't know what yours is. And so we've tried some different modalities to try to make this work. It's still an ongoing process for us, and it's still a struggle. But that's how we're handling this right now. In the future, we have to decide what kind of campus do we really want to be. Our flagship campus has realized they don't need any more buildings. So they're not going to build any more buildings. They're going to look at different modalities for teaching. We're not there yet. We still put a heavy emphasis on the face-to-face learning and the small student faculty ratio. So we'll have to really think about that and make a decision based on, partly the economics, but partly what we see we can handle to support our students. So we're still working it out. I mean, that's a long answer to say we're still working it out, but we are.
Thank you.
Yes, I see another hand.
Dr. Karen.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Karen Mazzini. I joined by phone, so my name is not there. I actually live in DeSoto, so I'm familiar with your campus and the population there. And I wondered what special programs you might have to keep students engaged through the process to complete their four-year degree.
Yeah, are you talking about now or just in general?
Pre-COVID.
Okay, yeah. So as I said, we have a very high touch campus. So we have personal advising for them. We have mental health counseling for them. We have robust tutoring for these students. to help them to maintain. We also have wraparound services where the North Texas Food Bank comes to campus once a month to provide some provisions for our students. We're also bringing in some financial literacy programs and some reading programs for our students to help them. So we try to support them with a lot of wraparound services. And one of the things that we do on the academic side is we make sure that our faculty fill out early alerts. And early alerts mean for us that if a student starts to struggle in a class early on, first exam, and they're not doing well, we ask our faculty to fill out forms so that they can get special attention to help them to get, if it's tutoring, or we can see what else is going on in their lives. So we do a lot of wraparound services to help our students be successful and progress toward. And then one of the things that I've instituted is that I require any faculty member who's teaching a 1,000 or 2,000 level course to turn in a midterm grade. Now, you know, you're saying, okay, but this is where the retention, this is where our retention focus is that if we can get them past those first 2 years, we know that they'll be motivated to progress toward completion. So we put a lot of emphasis on what we do in those first 2 years for our undergraduates.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Okay.
I think there are no more questions, Dr. Betty. I think.
Well, I want to thank you all for giving me this opportunity to speak. It's so nice to hear from my colleagues who are not too far from me. And thank you for taking the time to listen to my journey. And I hope that you've heard something tonight that might, you know, motivate you, or at least make you think about things or question some things. But thank you again for your time. I appreciate having this opportunity to speak with you all tonight.
So let's give a round of applause for Dr. Betty Stewart from wherever we are.
Thank you.
You all have a good night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great talk. Thank you very much.
Thank
Good
you.
evening.
What?